Monster of the Week. What more needs to be said? It's powered by the Apocalypse engine, it's insanely popular, has numerous fan editions, an expansion, updated hardcover edition which combines some of the more popular features from the expansion into the core rulebooks, and now it has a brand new expansion. One that adds new ways to play and really some inspiration, some thought-provoking scenarios, some thought-provoking settings to really make your game a little bit more powerful. This is a review of Monster of the Week, the Codex of Worlds. Let's dive in. So here we have Monster of the Week, the Codex of Worlds. This was written by Michael Sands and Marek Golonka, and the copyright is 2023, published by Evil Hat Productions. Let's read the back. Your team gets stronger, the world gets weirder. Unite your party of hunters with new team playbooks and take your supernatural adventures into alternate genres and fresh settings with this huge expansion for the acclaimed Monster of the Week RPG. Hunters, choose from 15 different team playbooks and give your characters new allies, new moves, and new assets. All in all, the Codex of Worlds offers over a dozen new team playbooks which unite and support your characters in their battle against supernatural evil. Keepers. Leave the modern day behind with 5 new series frameworks. These worlds give you new settings and alternate timelines to challenge your hunters. Each framework includes game tweaks, new threats, and an introductory mystery to get you started. Or take inspiration from your own sources and use the advice inside to build your own monstrous worlds. The Codex of Worlds. The moves are bigger, the stakes are higher, and the world gets weirder. You grasp the Codex in your hands, open its pages, and step forth into new adventures. The Codex of Worlds is broken down into 3 different sections, not included the introduction. And I gotta say, I really like this inside cover. You're gonna see this artwork for the team playbooks here in a little bit, but that's actually really cool. I do like that. I like it when they give enough attention to the inside covers to at least make it look interesting. I mean, it's like your first page that you're going to see most likely. So what do we have in the Codex of Worlds? We do get an introduction and some safety tools, but this is pretty much what you're going to see in RPG books from now on. It's those 2 things. There are 2 different rules modules, the Atonement Mysteries and the Non-Lethal Play, which we'll get into in a little bit. Then there are the Team Playbooks, and then the rest of the book, for the most part, is the Other Worlds, and these are the 5 different settings that we heard about from the back of the book. So let's talk about the 2 rule modules first. There are 2 new ways to play the game. The first is the Atonement Mysteries. These focus on hunters solving problems they find by making up for a past wrong instead of just outright killing a monster. It just seems like something a GM would naturally gravitate towards. It's nice to see it in the details though. The second is the non-lethal play rules. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a big fan of this, although I do see how it could be beneficial to some. If you're looking for a more cartoony game, think Scooby-Doo, then this would be for you. Basically, hunters can get hurt, but instead of dying, they are just taken out of the action. Also, after a fight, all harm is removed. Again, not a big fan of this, but I can see a need for it. For example, if you're playing with young people, or if your hunters enter a cartoony dimension. New to Monster of the Week is the idea of team playbooks. They are like normal playbooks, but they add focus to the team composition. Everyone has access to the team playbooks, and the team playbooks add extra moves, gear, and allies. In addition, the playbooks add a team concept and an overall nemesis for the hunters, as well as a first mystery hook. There are 15 different team playbooks, and first we have the Agents in Black. This team playbook has the hunters working for the Bureau, a clandestine organization dedicated to hiding the existence of monsters and the supernatural from the general public. It emphasizes weird technology and phenomena over magic and monsters, as well as assuming the world is filled with conspiracies and secret agendas. Then we have Always on the Road, your traveling hunter team. Every week is a new town with a new problem. Think supernatural. Then we have Guardians of the Borderland. This team playbook has the hunters as wardens of a liminal region, somewhere where the borders of the world are thin, where monsters and magic can slip through and cause trouble. We have the Chosen One and Entourage. This team centers on a Chosen One and their friends who help with monster hunting. There's also room for a mentor. As a slightly different take on the team playbooks, you can leave out the Chosen playbook for now and include a hunter who is also chosen for greatness but doesn't have that as their main thing right now. The Summoned, Wronged, Spooky, and Pararomantic are good choices. That hunter may change playbooks to the Chosen later, when they uncover their destiny. Or perhaps it will turn out somebody else gets tapped to save the world. We have Imps, International Monster and Paranormal Service. This team playbook sets your hunters as one of the elite Imps teams that travels the world to deal with monster incidents. The International Monsters and Paranormal Service was created to keep humanity safe from supernatural threats. It's not clear who funds them, although some people assume it's some kind of United Nations agency. Imps isn't secret, but they keep things as quiet as possible. Imps has plenty of fancy gear available, including the ability to get you all to any mystery site around the world as soon as you're needed. Think Monster Hunter International for this one. We have the Interdimensional Crisis team. Your world isn't the only one that needs monster hunting help from time to time. And when others do, you travel through portals, loopholes, and other oddities to help. This team playbook is a perfect way to use all the settings within the Codex in a single game. Interdimensional Crisis team perfectly fits over-the-top parody games. Most serious stories about interdimensional problems are handled better by Guardians of the Borderland. The Last Survivors. This hunter team were the only people who lived through a terrible, maybe even apocalyptic battle. You had many allies at your side, but they didn't make it. The League of Double Lives. You're monster hunters, but also important society members in a city. Your ties to the society give you various forms of influence, but also mean you somehow have to manage two lives at once. The world isn't ready to learn about your monster hunting, and even less about the monsters themselves. Think Batman or most characters from Penny Dreadful. We have Mercenaries. This team playbook has the hunters working for hire. They save people and hunt monsters, sure, but they also want to get paid at the end of the day. We have the Mystery Club. This is a hunter team of investigators with a focus on less horrific and more comedic mysteries. This particularly suits games with younger players or younger hunters. This team playbook strongly pushes the game towards silliness and jokes, so be sure you're ready for that if you're considering taking it. It is recommended to use the non-lethal play module for this one. We have the Night Shift. This team playbook has the hunters comprising the night shift at a workplace that gets way more than its fair share of supernatural problems. This is not a normal workplace. Strange stuff happens here. Odd customers come here. You hear things over the intercom, but you're keeping a lid on it for now. This team concept is inspired in part by the glorious Raiders of the Lost Mark quick series for Unknown Armies 3rd edition by Gareth Ryder Hanrahan. We have the Suburban Watch Group. This is a group of hunters who began as regular folks looking out for their local neighborhood or town. It emphasizes relationships outside of monster hunting and a focus on normal life as well as your adventures. On the surface, the SWG is a normal neighborhood watch group, but you come to realize that the real problems here are monsters and the supernatural, not regular criminals. Your hunters are the core members of the SWG who know what's really going on. Then we have, perhaps my favorite, the Touring Band. This team is a band, eternally on tour. Everywhere you have a gig booked, it seems like something bad is going down. Between sound check and putting on the show, you gotta deal with whatever is eating people in this town. Whistleblowers. All the hunters in your team are members of a monster hunting organization, and you start suspecting there's something fishy about this group. This team playbook shares many elements of the initiate and professional playbooks because it essentially represents playing an entire team of initiates and or professionals. You shouldn't choose those playbooks when playing as the whistleblower, unless the keeper agrees some characters belong to a different organization as well, which might make the situation even more messy. This team playbook doesn't have a standard team enemy section. Their focus is instead on the organization itself. The Wild Hunt Fugitives. You joined or were abducted by the Wild Hunt. You gained some supernatural skills while riding with it, but then escaped it. Now you use your experience to hunt monsters, evade the hunt, and, maybe, destroy it one day. This team playbook doesn't have a standard team enemy section. Instead, their focus is on the wild hunt itself. This is where the meat of the book really is. There are 5 settings detailed within these pages. We start close to a regular Monster of the Week style with this strange old house, which is more like a team playbook writ big than moving to a full new setting. Then we move further away from the present day and the world as we know it. Next is Gothic Century, which takes you into a supernatural tinged version of that age of empire and industry. Dreaming with the Gods is adjacent to the Renaissance but set in a fictional land, and the uncovered knowledge is more dangerous. Monster Marches is a medieval fantasy world where monsters fight colonialists and everyday folks are caught in the middle. Finally, in Bone Spear, we go to a fantastic version of the Stone Age, where hunters defend their community from the monsters outside. First, we have this strange old house. The inspiration is from Lock and Key, Betrayal at the House on the Hill, House of Leaves, the real-world Winchester House, and all stories about inheriting a mysterious house. The house provides a reason for the hunters to form a new team if needed, a base they can come back to, and things going on in the background. If you're using this setting, it can be there right from the start of the game, or you can introduce it to an ongoing series. It is recommended that you not use this setting with a hunter team playbook. The things the hunters discover as they explore the house are effectively their team playbook. This is a very unique setting, and you get access to a house which you can level up over time, and certain rooms will actually give you benefits. My only gripe is that the house itself is given too much emphasis. The monsters come to the house keeps a bad thing contained. Of course, you're free to do what you want in your game, and if I was running something involving this strange old house, I treat it more like a base that has its own arc within the entire campaign. I wouldn't necessarily design an entire campaign around it. Next, we have Gothic Century. Gothic reimaginings of the 19th century are a staple of horror and monster hunting fiction. With popular media like the Penny Dreadful series, the Van Helsing movie, or the Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing video game series, running typical Monster of the Week monster hunts in this era requires only minor tweaks. Gothic Century offers advice on such tweaks as well as bringing more Gothic style to your game. The 19th century was an era that shaped our world in fears. It was a century of modernization and progress in technology and medicine, but also of rampant colonialism and painful inequality. The old aristocracy of birth mingled with the new aristocracy of money, creating a system that still shapes life today. Gothic Century expands themes of classic Gothic fiction into something with a more social bent, focusing not so much on monsters but instead the world itself. This is the setting you want to use if you're looking for that classic horror game. Within, you'll find historical weapons so you can switch out the playbook's gears, and you'll find some minor changes to some of the playbooks. These can include alter moves like the gumshoes. He's got the hacker with a dragon tattoo becomes the archive rat and works with libraries and archives. And he's also got the naked city. Adjustment types as required for the 19th century. For example, film and TV could mean theater. This is as straightforward as it goes. I do like the monster stats for Dracula and his minions. And we also get one for Dorian Gray, which is kind of a bit of an odd choice to me. I kind of wish they had a few more like Frankenstein or even like the Mummy, I suppose. But I guess this is a pretty good start. Next we have Dreaming with the Gods. Dreaming with the Gods is a Renaissance fantasy horror series framework. It invites you to tell the story of the heroes of Helos, a country just leaving a fallen age thanks to dream alchemy, but also ravaged by monsters from ancient myths. It has a feel and aesthetic similar to Bloodborne, H.P. Lovecraft's Dreamlands, Changeling games, both The Dreaming and The Lost, and swashbuckling fiction like The Three Musketeers or The Count of Monte Cristo. Depending on the player's choices, it can also have some elements of magic-based Industrial Revolution reminiscent of the Eberron setting in Dungeons & Dragons. Here is a truly unique setting. This is kind of like Monster of the Week if the monsters are mythological creatures from ancient Greece and Egypt. Be forewarned, the campaign is kind of bonkers. You see, there are these grand dreamers who are turning people into monsters with their experiments, although that is all hush-hush, so don't tell anybody. There's also this Athena and Agamemnon characters who have their own agenda to ascend to godhood and become like one being. Yeah, they just want to be one in body, mind, and soul, so interesting. There is a really cool dream mechanic where the hunters can dive into the dream world, but doing so is dangerous, as if you suffer a wound in the dream world from a monster, you will start to turn into that monster. Out of all of the settings, this one is my least favorite. It tries to do too much with its world, and I'm not really a big fan of combining steampunkish tech with what could have been a stellar ancient Greek setting. But again, you can do what you want with your settings in your own game. Next we have Monster Marches. Monster Marches is a series framework that uses classical medieval fantasy tropes but casts the hunters as outsiders and gives monsters a solid reason to be monsters. The role of hunters in this world is similar to that of the Witchers in the popular Witcher setting, and has an environmentalist bent reminiscent of Princess Mononoke and other fantasy movies by Hayao Miyazaki. Once, the Iron Principality and the Monster Marches were one nation, but they split when the Principality chose to abandon its old customs to pursue large-scale industry. Recently, the Marches became the Crown Princess Marches after the Crown Princess of the Iron Principality persuaded local villagers to reunify with her nation. The locals were long envious of how prosperous and safe the people of the Principality were compared to them. After the reunification, however, the princess decreed old customs and old alliances with forces of the wild must be abandoned. The princess sent her people to intensely exploit the realm's natural resources, and many people of the Marches felt cheated. This is definitely the setting you're going to want to play if you like The Witcher. That's really all there is to say about it, although there is this angle where nature is trying to take over because the princess ruler is a big douchebag. If you like the whole nature versus humanity angle and making choices to try and appease one side over the other or both, then this is definitely going to be the game for you. And last but not least, we have Bone Spear. This is a series set up for Monster of the Week, setting the game back in the Stone Ages instead of modern day. There are Stone Age Hunter playbooks, new rules, the chance to build up your community, and mystery creation advice to make your adventures feel more prehistoric. The framework doesn't assume any particular time or place for your game beyond some time in the Mesolithic or Neolithic eras. You'll need to pick whether you're going for a Stone Age fantasy where anachronism or realism are not very important, or if you would prefer to select a time and place for your game and ensure everything fits. The example in this section cover anything within the former, so if you have a specific setting in mind, adjust them to locally and historically reasonable alternatives. This is hands down my favorite setting in the book, and the one I think that's received the most attention. Everything has a soul, and things don't just happen because. They happen as a result of someone's previous actions that are positive or negative. Let's just say that they're using the atonement mysteries mentioned at the beginning of the book to great effect here. This is also the setting that requires the most setup in terms of playbooks and gear. There are some new rules as well. You can now craft weapons and armor as well as repair them. Healing is also different. At the end of a mystery, hunters recover 2 harm and can remove the unstable status. If you have an unhealed injury or illness, you have to roll plus tough. You can now attempt to heal another hunter using medical supplies. There's also an intimidate and a persuade instead of manipulate someone. And I think that's actually really interesting because it's kind of assumed that before you couldn't, appease monsters, but now you sort of kind of can. I really like the Stone Age fantasy thing that they have going here. There's a lot that you can do with it, and I'll be all over including dinosaurs into my Monster of the Week if given the opportunity. The very end of the book is about building your own worlds. But it's more of these are things to watch out for and pay attention to, as opposed to giving you the tools to do so. There's a lot to pack into this book. Sometimes things get a little bit messy, particularly when there are changes to the playbooks in each settings. I think the layout could have been a little bit better, but if that was the case, then the page count would probably be unbearable. For comparison's sake, the Codex of Worlds has about 416 pages, whereas the hardcover edition of Monster of the Week has about 344. The art is stellar, but man, I really wish that some of this artwork was in color. It's the same Monster of the Week art style, and it does what it's supposed to do, and that's pretty much to give you some inspiration for your games. If you play Monster of the Week, then this is a no-brainer. Get this book. At its heart, it gives you inspiration. It makes you think about what you can really do with your games. So you're not just doing the same old thing every single mystery. The team playbooks are actually my favorite aspect of this entire book. It keeps things fresh, but it also keeps things very, very focused. And it adds some depth to the hunters and the world that you're crafting. Also, here's another one of those you can use this to play Men in Black kind of things. So definitely go with this if you want to play a Men in Black game. One day, I am going to run Monster of the Week for my gaming group. It might be a one-shot, it might be a short campaign, but I will definitely be using a lot of the features that are in this book to help out when I actually do get around to it. That's going to do it for this video. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Give this video a huge thumbs up to support this series, and I will see you guys in the next video.